Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dream Leapers. I'm your host, Harriette Cole. Today is a very special day. Let's start with it is the anniversary of this country, 250 years. That means so many things to so many different people. I'm not sure if we're going to talk about that, but just say happy anniversary, USA, and we'll see. But this week on Dream Leapers, we welcome Dr. Donna Oriowo. She is an award-winning DEI advocate. Yes, I said those dirty words, DEI, internationally recognized speaker and certified sex and relationship therapist who is redefining what it means to be whole, worthy, and well. Whole, worthy, and well. As the founder of Anad Right, her therapy practice centered on Black women's mental, emotional, and sexual health, Dr. Oriowo has built a career helping people unpack how identity, culture, and lived experience shape self-esteem and intimacy. A thought leader featured in major outlets and a trusted voice on sexuality and self-worth, she is the author of two powerfully provocative books, Cocoa Butter and Hair Grease, a self-love journey through hair and skin. And more recently, in fact, right now, Drink Water and Mind Your Business, a Black woman's guide to unlearning the BS and healing your self-esteem. This book challenges us to unlearn harmful narratives and reclaim our inherent value. So in the conversation today, Dr. Oriowo invites us to explore the deep connection between self-care, self-esteem, and pleasure, another one of those dirty words, and what it really takes to prioritize ourselves in a world that often asks us to do the opposite. With honesty, humor, and radical clarity, she reminds us that healing is not just about survival. It's about learning how to feel good, take up space, and live fully. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Donna Oriowo to Dream Leapers.
Hi.
Hi.
That was such a lovely intro.
Oh, well, thank you. I have had a lot of fun reading your book. Okay, look. Drink water and mind your business.
Oh, I love to hear it now.
I have definitely enjoyed, first of all, you have such a warm and direct manner, which I think is super important in this world. What made you choose to focus on Black women in your practice, in your mental health practice?
Purely selfish reasons. I love Black women. It was very easy to say I wanted to focus on us. From a more, I guess, expanded reasoning standpoint, not a lot actually does. A lot of the work in mental health and sexuality has focused primarily on white men and has been extrapolated to other people and other populations. Black women have been grossly understudied. Grossly unrepresented and grossly unserviced. So to place them at the center, to not place them at the margins, to place us as the main thing that I'm going to talk about, the main thing that I'm going to do my research about, I think that was very important to do because no one really wants to pay attention. And I think it's because when Black women talk, we tell on everybody.
We tell on everybody. Okay. All right. You have a lot of interesting stories in the book that kind of illustrate this notion of self-worth and what it is and how it evolves. So before we get to the stories, can you define what self-worth means to you?
Self-worth is whether or not you see yourself as worthy and even what worthiness sort of means to you, because worthiness can be worth relative to what. I like to speak specifically about self-esteem because self-esteem is how one feels about oneself. Self-worthiness would be whether or not one sees oneself as worthy, which can go into self-esteem, but is not necessary.
So it is, even as you just said it in those simple words, it's a little complicated. So in terms of how we feel about ourselves, and you describe this, and for sure, we know this to be true. We know how to look good. We know how to show up as fabulous as possible. You know, the hair, the outfit, the makeup, the swag. And that often looks like you're walking with self-esteem. That often looks like you've got everything going on, as we say, but it often is a mask. It often hides what we are actually feeling and thinking and living through. And that is not exclusive to Black women for sure. I mean, we know people across the spectrum who sadly have taken their lives, and you think they have it all.
Yeah.
So
much of it is performative.
Yes. So talk to us about the mask and what's behind the mask and what that has to do with self-esteem.
The mask is certainly self-protective. When we are pretending to be something that we are not, it is usually because we are requesting something to be given to us. And I think that a while back, there was a time where people were saying that people pleasers are manipulative. And I'm like, yes. And when you leave the story at people pleasers are manipulative, you miss the entire rest of the story. And the story is that we are a social people who require other people for our actual survival. So we are wanting and chasing after acceptance and care and love. But we have also in some ways been taught that you have to perform to receive it.
Yes.
From the very first foundational relationships. In the book, I talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. At the bottom, you've got your physiological needs. You need food, water, rest, shelter. You need these things before you can get to the next level where I want to say it's like security, before you can get to the next level where there's esteem and belonging, before you can get to the next level. And finally, before you can get to self-actualization. But the way that you get those bottom needs met usually is based off who you are and how you present and whether or not someone else will accept you.
Right.
I mean, low key, high key, parents may not want to say it, but you love the kid that's cuter. You love the kid that came first. Research shows this. Parents won't say it, but they love their pretty kid because pretty kids tend to get more stuff. They tend to get more.
You address this in the book very directly and in a layered kind of way. And I wanted to talk about that because this whole issue of colorism, which you have a big focus in your practice and kind of breaking that down, whether we mean to or not, in this culture, we do, and I say we because it's all of us in one way or another, judge people based on how they look, but also color does have something to do with it. And absolutely. In my work, I've met so many people who are incredibly accomplished. And let's say Black women, because that's who we're talking about for the focus of your practice. And you peel just underneath a little bit, and almost always there is some issue around skin color if they are darker skinned. I mean, I'm talking about the most beautiful on any level, any list that you might have of what beauty is. These people are among the most beautiful, but they don't really see it.
Yep. We've been taught what pretty is. So we have a like a sexual schema or a map, if you will, of what we have been taught is attractive. And that map is white, blonde hair, blue-eyed, thin. So every time someone is not white, blonde hair, blue-eyed, thin, you start looking at them and you are sort of moving them up and down your ranking system. We're looking like, oh, okay, they're dark skinned, but they've got this type of hair. Oh, they've got this type of hair, but they've got these type of eyes. Oh, they are light skinned. They've got the so-called good hair, light eyes, but they're fat. Where do we place them now? It is a constant movement because we are negotiating someone's wealth or their value relative to what supremacy culture has said is attractive. So if the only thing that is right is what white men and women look like, rich white men and women who are thin and trim and tall and all that other stuff, if they are the only thing that is right, then that places everybody else as being deviant in the way that they look, and thus in a space where you must discipline yourself so that you can correct what you look like as much as is possible to meet the standard that has been set.
So I got two stories for you that have come to mind as I was reading the book and as you're speaking right now. One, when my mother was coming up, and so she passed away a year ago at 95. So it's a long time ago when she was coming up. And there was something called marrying up. And marrying up meant you either married someone who was some level of wealthy compared to you, or who was light skinned. And if you were light skinned, if you married somebody dark skinned, they better be on their way up or already up. And I remember she didn't tell me this directly. I learned this from the community. And as it happens, my mother was very light skinned. My father was dark skinned. My father became this international figure. I mean, she didn't say it about herself, but it was the culture. Yeah. It was the culture. It was so ingrained in the culture. This is what the elders would say. They would say what marrying up was. Now I want to give you a contrast to that. So I'm working on a new book. The very first book I wrote is called Jumping the Broom, the African-American Wedding Planner. I'm making a new one right now. And I interviewed like 100 people for this book. One couple is a couple who married recently as mature people. The husband is an artist. And when he met this woman, her name is Julia Chance, he's Jimmy James Green. When he saw her, he said, and she's a very African presenting, tall, beautiful woman with kinky hair and broad features. And he said, you look like a Don mask, like Liberian people. And he saw her and saw this incredible beauty because he knows African beauty, and saw something that was beyond the patriarchy, that was beyond all of these constructs that we see now, which says it is possible. It is possible for us to see beyond whatever those structures are. And that's part of what you are looking to do in your practice, to break through, right?
Absolutely. The structures are the thing that get between you and yourself. And because it's between you and you, and because you are interacting with others, it also means that it's between you and others. So how you're negotiating the way that these structures, the supremacy culture shows up between you and yourself, and then you and the people who you know, like, and trust, I think that is where the work often ends up being. It's not just, oh, let's talk about, supremacy culture just for the sake of talking about it. It's more in a way of, how is this impacting the way you see and know yourself? And then whether or not you like yourself, and how is this impacting the way that you're able to interact with other people? Quite frankly, some people don't like themselves, which means they can't like you.
And what do you do then if you fundamentally, even if you don't figure it out, if you don't like yourself, how can you get to the point of liking yourself? And I know that's where therapy comes in, and that's part of the fundamental core of your work, is helping people to kind of see themselves and learn to love themselves. How do you get there if a person fundamentally looks in the mirror and says, I don't like you, let alone love you?
I can be a little harsh about it, because I'm just like, well, do you know yourself so enough for you to be able to say that you don't like you? Or do you only know yourself in the context of what somebody else says you should be? Because what you may not like your performance, you may not like your mask, but most times people don't know themselves well enough to dislike themselves. You dislike what someone else said. You dislike what someone else wants. That thing that you have to do to perform, to be that version of you. Yeah, you may not like that, but if you don't know you, you can't dislike you.
That's interesting. I think also it's where we put ourselves, the environments in which we put ourselves. I have a friend a beautiful, brown-skinned, curvy, fabulous woman who said she grew up in going to school in boarding schools and private schools, so primarily around people who don't look like her. And their standard of beauty was tall, thin, skinny, white, etc. And then she went to Howard, where I also
and
went
then
to
she's in style.
And then she was like, she was a beauty queen, baby. She was on the altar. She was on the altar. And
when you grow up with a monolith of people around you and you don't look like those people, it is very easy to underestimate what you look like and what you bring to the space, what your value is, because these people are saying your lack of sameness makes me uncomfortable. And so I'm saying that your lack of sameness with us is ugly, that it is that it has no value here and that we don't want it. And so you feel badly about yourself. But if you change your environment, the value also changes. And that part is very important because I believe it was Nikki Giovanni who said, where we have the wrong audience. You're asking people who hate you if you are pretty.
Ooh, that's deep. That's
that
deep.
Quote has stuck with me since she said it. And I want to say that was like 2020, 2021, somewhere around, the stay inside COVID years. Yes. It was in a online forum where she said it. And I was thinking, oh my goodness, half the time we do have the wrong audience. Why are you looking for people who have already expressed a disliking of you to validate your experience or to validate your life or to validate your value?
That is so true.
It's more value relative too.
Absolutely. Let me remind folks, this is Dream Leapers with Harriette Cole. We are talking with Dr. Donna Oriowo. Her book, Drink Water and Mind Your Business, a Black woman's guide to unlearning the BS and healing your self-esteem. I love the title. I love the cover. It's all, I mean, you're having fun as you address a very serious topic that, that many of us wrestle with. I think about the images on television and in movies, and who is a Black woman? Usually we see someone who is that so-called mammy figure, somebody who's overweight, somebody who's older, someone who takes care of XYZ. And you talk in this book again about the role that Black women so often have, which is caretaker, which is like the role, the job is to take care of others at whatever age you are. Where does that come from, and how can we release ourselves from that, but still be, be when we want to be wives, mothers, sisters, friends who do take care of people? But it's a different, like there's a subtle difference between having the responsibility of taking care of everyone and making the choice.
Absolutely. There is, I would even say the difference between them is almost an ocean. Having something thrust upon you as though it is your role in this world. I think that we have two things to thank for that sort of gifting, and that would be both white supremacy and male supremacy. So white supremacy has made it so that Black people and people of color in general, their job is to serve at the altar of white supremacy culture, to make sure that we are using our minds, our bodies, and everything about ourselves in service to make sure that we are laboring for this thing. Patriarchy asks the same thing of women. Your job is then to be laborious too, to be in service to give of your mind, your body, your thoughts, everything that you have is to help further this thing along. So in that way, number one, you stop being a full person. You start being more of an item that does a task, right? They become sort of labor diggers. They're digging for the labor of Black people and people of color. This is something that, I cannot remember her name, but she labeled it labor diggers, and that sort of stuck with me. But they are asking consistently, constantly, ceaselessly for your labor. So your job is to simply labor until you die. And this is also how they measure whether or not you are a good woman, by how well you caretake, and whether or not you have decided to put yourself on your list and how far up you are. A good woman is not a woman that puts herself on the list. A good woman gives her last. A good woman doesn't think of herself first. She thinks of herself last. If she ever thinks of herself, she's always giving. And quite frankly, hearing people say that, like at funerals, like, oh, I love that she gave and gave and gave and gave and gave. I'm like, wow, you don't know anything about this person other than what you got out of her that very likely led her to an early death. To me,
That's
that's sad. That's not to be celebrated.
That is so interesting. Okay, so you're triggering all kinds of thoughts in Dr. Oriowo. Okay, here's one. I go back to my mother. I think about my mother every single day, talk about her all the time. When my father died, they had been married for 41 years. She lived 25 plus years after. So, but at that turning point when he died, I remember her saying, you know, I have been Harry's wife, you all's mother, daughter to, you know, her mother. Her father died when she was a long time before. I am now Doris.
Ooh.
I am claiming me. She said, I'm still your mother, but I am Doris. And it was a really powerful moment for all of us. We had 3 girls that she has. So we were all with her. This is at the time of my father's passing. So it was a very vulnerable time for her. And she made it very clear to us that she was claiming her personhood fully. And it is time for me to step into me. And and what she did, I get chill bumps even thinking about it. My father didn't like to travel. She became a world traveler. She went to, well, first she went to Alaska on a cruise, then she went to Bali, then she went all over the world where she wanted to go. Mm-hmm. And then 9/11 happened and she said, well, maybe I'll be domestic now. But she did it. She did the things she wanted to do. Now, she was in her 60s when she did it. But again, she lived to be 95. But I think of her in this, like, claiming your power whenever you do. It's not too late for your life to claim your power. You help people to understand how to do that. What are the things that people have to break free from, especially Black women? That's your audience, that's your client base. What do Black women need to break free from in order to say, I am me and I'm fully claiming myself?
The first thing you have to break free from is the performance for someone else. And I would even say that really the real work there is to acknowledge that you're in a performance, that you are performing for your job, that you're performing for a partner, performing for parents, performing for children, that you are constantly, ceaselessly performing. Wearing a mask, constantly being masked, is not just difficult work, it's also kind of dangerous work, because at some point it separates you from yourself. It increases anxiety, increases depression, it increases the likelihood that you will have self-esteem problems. It increases the likelihood that you will have problems within your sexuality as well. It increases the likelihood that you will have problems with your digestion, with your, like, seriously, everything that has to do with your general and mental well-being and health. All of it is affected when you are not focused at all on your pleasure and the pleasure of life. Because most people hear, when they hear a sex therapist say pleasure, they hear sex. And that's not what I said. That's what you heard, you nasty. Instead.
But you, like I said in the intro, that's one of those dirty words. Pleasure. People start thinking about all kinds of
they're like, you nasty. I'm like, that's not what I said. That's what you heard. I'm talking about all types of pleasure. Like, do you take pleasure in the food that you eat? Do you take pleasure in the spaces that you're in? Do you have something that is visually appealing there? What are the things that bring you pleasure? We are so into the performance that we forgot that part of the objective is to experience life. Life for an actor is not just spent on a stage. That would be a performance. At some point, their job is to live. Are you an actor or are you living? Are you a human being or are you a human doing?
Being or doing. That's powerful. That's powerful. So I want to go to an interesting space perhaps for you. So, Oriowo, you are Nigerian. You are Nigerian American, right?
Yes.
So I went to college with a bunch of Nigerian guys. They were some of the most industrious people I had ever met. Still to this day, you know, they are like about business. They're going to do their thing. It's a pretty patriarchal culture. And so
I would say that's not the original, that's the remix, but yes.
But we're all living in the remix. Aren't we?
Yes.
So, but for you taking on this position of empowerment for women, all the way through the pleasuring and the being a sex therapist, and we'll get into all that means in a moment. But what did you have to do to kind of reconcile being so forthright about all these things coming from the culture that you do?
Well,
is that a fair question?
It is a fair question. It's also a very difficult question.
Right.
I would say that I had to recognize how much was being placed on me that wasn't mine. Doctor, lawyer, engineer. That is
yes.
Firstborn kids here, doctor, lawyer, engineer. And at the time I'd chosen lawyer, and I had to really, there was a time, I would say the first time was probably in the book where I said I slapped my aunt.
Oh, that story.
Yeah, that story. I would say that was the first time that I was just, it was a shifting of my identity that, oh, I don't have to be my performance. I can be me. And the me that I am is, I'm kind, but I'm not that nice. Right? That like there's these things about me, and that I don't have to be palatable or easy so that I am easily consumable or digestible. I can be a little difficult, and I could actually be a lot difficult. And it is up to me to just be whatever version of me that I am, which is why I like to say in my marriage, I don't do anything other than provide vibes. And the vibes I provide are the ones I have on hand. They're not positive. They're not negative. It's just, these are the ones I had.
Right.
Right. So I had to learn to accept me. And that is an ongoing journey. So it's one layer after the next. And it's like, wow, I've learned this new thing about myself. How would I like to move forward with this new thing that I've learned? I get to make a decision, and then I go live it. So I would say that it was difficult. And it also meant that I had to be willing to deal with the strife that came with it. My dad was not on board. My mom wasn't on board either, but my mom got on board quicker than my dad. And my dad was just like, I didn't come to this country for this. It's like I send you to the store to go buy bread and you bring me a cookie. This is not what I want for you. And I had to realize that parents are a door. They are not the owner of you. They are a pathway to being here, but they don't get to make your decisions, because the life that they have to live is theirs, not yours. And as much as we may want to honor them with our lives, that is a terrible waste of a life. They had their opportunity. If they don't want to live for them, you can't live for them. That's not how this works.
That is so important of a point. And I can tell you again, because I interviewed so many couples for this book, the culture clashes, especially between African people and African American people, because the cultures are different. Yeah. And where the people whose parents were from an African country are like, you have to do what our culture says. You shouldn't even marry them, because you need to do what our culture says. And
yes, so, and I'm married to a Black man.
Excuse me,
my husband is a Black African American man, and I was just like, look, my friend Goody Howard, she's said it time and time again. Tradition ain't nothing but peer pressure from dead people.
Ooh.
And when she said it, I was like, whoa. She said, tradition is nothing but peer pressure from dead people.
Hello. That's powerful.
And the first time I heard it, I was just like, it's like, does not compute. What do you mean? But I mean, through my own work, my own therapist, she pointed out to me all the ways that I was living for somebody else, and it was killing me in the here and now. Mm-hmm. And the question was, are you willing to die on that hill? I was not.
It's so interesting, because on the one hand, the roadmap that our parents give us is very important. Mm-hmm. You talk about, the impressions from a young age, and at some point you have to make your own decisions. Let me remind folks before we get into this point, this is Dream Leapers with Harriette Cole. We are talking with Dr. Donna Oriowo. Her book, Drink Water and Mind Your Business, a Black woman's guide to unlearning the BS and healing your self-esteem. So this point, I mean, you mentioned it with your dad, and so many of us have this. My dad, I said, I knew from when I was 12, I wanted to be a writer, and I was interested in fashion. Mm-hmm. And I am a writer, and I work in the space of presentation. But my father, who was a lawyer and then a judge, said to me, well, the greatest type of writing is the law. And so I should become a lawyer. And I was like, and he was an appellate lawyer, which literally meant that he was writing law. That's what they do. And it is a powerful thing to do. I take nothing away from that. But that was not the kind of writing that I wanted to do. My father paid for me to take the LSAT. My father didn't pay for much. He's like, you got to pay for your own way. He paid for me to take the LSAT, which I did not take because I did not want to be a lawyer. And that was a break. By the way, I was not that courageous. I didn't tell him I didn't take it, but I didn't take it. I wasn't a whole courageous being at whatever age that was, but I didn't take it. And you know, it wasn't until I wrote my first book where he was like, okay, all right, I see you're doing what you wanted to do, because they're strong in whatever their beliefs are. They think they know what is best for you. And in part, like parents do the best they can for you, but as you are saying, it is our job to live our lives. And it's a tough thing where the tradition, you're on this runway with the traditions of your family. I believe in tradition, and at some point you have to break forth and live your own life.
Absolutely. There's a balance between tradition and innovation.
How do you figure it out?
There is an African proverb: if I stand tall, it is because I stand on the shoulders of those who came before me. That means that, or at least the way that I interpret it, how are you supposed to stand tall repeating what they say? That is a starting point. It is not a finishing point. So to only do what they want you to do is to live the life that they have carved out for you, which may or may not actually sing to you and for you. Can you imagine? We would not have the book of Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi if she did not decide that she was going to write this book. We would not know Yvonne Orji if she had decided to go with what her parents wanted, doctor, lawyer, engineer, right? They're like, all right, so you want to be a jester, right? To be, because you wanted to be a comedian. There are so many people whose names, whose lives, whose work we would never have encountered if they only did what their parents wanted them to do. I get it. A lot of parents, what they're trying to actually do is to save you from the hurt of the rejection that can come with something that doesn't feel like it has a proscribed map. Right. Go to law school. Well, take LSAT. You know, actually take LSAT. Take the LSAT. Go to law school. Become a lawyer. Become a judge. Retire happy and rich, or at least rich. Maybe not happy.
Well, maybe right? Not even rich, but just that you have enough. That, you know, I mean, I get it.
Yes, and they are trying to secure for you a specific type of future, because I would say that they are more conservative than you know, with age, I think comes a certain level of conservatism, because we see the risks. We see where it can hurt, where you can fail, where things can go completely awry. We understand consequence because we have a prefrontal cortex loaded in and ready to go. But prefrontal cortexes don't come online until between 25 and 30, which means that before then you don't really understand risk. You know what you desire. You know what you want for yourself. You feel it in your bones. You feel it in like throughout your entire body. It is loud and it is big, and you are brave. But you're probably also somewhat brave because you do not understand the full consequences of these actions. It is a parent's job to temper you, but instead what a lot of them end up doing is breaking us because of their interactions with supremacy culture. If you are worried about how white supremacy or male supremacy or you know, heterosexual supremacy, if you're worried about how any of these things are going to treat your child, you are going to try to set them up to be in compliance with, which often means breaking them down and away from the things that they desperately desire, which then requires you to have more fortitude to say no, to say, no, I'm going to try it. No, I'm going to take that risk. I want to do this thing. I want to do it now. I don't want to wait until later. But it's also, I think, why you see a lot of Black women, especially, coming into their own when they turn 40.
40 is a magic number.
I don't know why 40 is that magic number, but there's something about 40 that says, I have done this thing and I am still unhappy. I have lived as I was told to live. Let me try the other way and see if I can depart this world a little bit happier and a little bit more fulfilled.
So there's a big topic that you talk about in your book, and that's foundational to your practice. That is one of those we don't talk about this, which is sexuality. And often, I mean, there's a lot of shame around historically around Black women and sexuality, Black women and Black men. But when we focus for your practice, you know, about this notion of pleasure, about self-pleasuring being a sin. I mean, there's a whole lot of religious stuff that is that kind of frames sexuality in a way that would make you think it is a mental illness or sin or both.
Yes.
And you kind of unpack it and say, you know, come on, let's look at this very differently in terms of part of our personal need and power. Can you talk about your understanding of sexuality, sensuality, and health?
Absolutely. Sexuality is simple, right? It's who you are from birth till death. We are sexual beings from birth till death. That does not mean that we're having sex from birth till death. That is separate. I think of sex as the thing that you do, and sexuality as the who you are. And then where it comes to how that relates back to pleasure, our senses. Sensuality is nothing but the senses, right? It's your sight, your ability to smell, taste, hear, feel. These are the senses, and whether or not something is sensual is whether or not it tapped into your senses. But that is also the way that we tap into the thing that brings us pleasure, right? There is a way where the light hits this wallpaper in my hallway that it really just, my eyes just can't be ripped away from this. I must enjoy the way this looks in this moment because it's transient and it will go because the sun will shift, right? Like there's a way that my plants like to sort of, they move a little bit with the sun. They're you know, just trying to catch rays. And I love to watch it happen. And these are simple pleasures that use my senses. The pleasures of a good meal, well cooked, right? Of the process of baking, the feel of the dough, the smell of the sugar, the sound it sort of makes when it like things are like crisping and crackling together, when you mix in that butter and that sugar. These are the senses. This is a sensual pleasure. And partaking in pleasure has real life health benefits. It is good for mitigating anxiety and depression, yes, but it can help you with your digestion. It can help you with your cognitive functioning. It can help you be more creative. Pleasure is actually good for a lot of the things that people are already trying to extract from you. People ask you for your opinion, which is for you to be creative. People who are enjoying some pleasures are also more creative.
Right.
And I think it's a shame that that's the only way that most people will get it and understand it in terms of how they might be able to be more productive at work or in their household or wherever. But if that's the way that you find your way into pleasure, then I want you to find your way in. Because right now what we have is a beautiful capacity for BS, not so much for pleasure. Right. And I want us to grow I want us to grow the latter, not the former. Have more pleasure capacity. How do we do that? Because it also helps us to connect with ourselves, but also with each other.
I love that. I was just watching a little video on Instagram. You know how the things pop up. So this is a beautiful little 2-minute video of street musicians, and somebody came up to play with these musicians, and they were playing strings. And the video showed the people playing, but also the people watching. And as the music filled the space and it penetrated your soul just by being in the company of it. You saw someone put a head on a shoulder. You saw a couple kiss. You saw a child hold someone's hand. There was this beautiful sensual experience that all these different people had that was not sexual, that was penetrating the heart and through the senses. And I'm reminded what you're describing, when you allow yourself to experience a moment and savor the goodness in the moment,
oh yeah,
a beautiful thing can happen. And I can see, because I was reading in your book, that enjoying the senses and allowing yourself to experience them can help to reduce anxiety. I could see that, because I can't even stop to look at that thing because I have to get to somewhere. That hurriedness, that rush, makes you have on blinders, and you may not even see what's right in front of your face.
Yes, and all the things that are there in front of your face that can help you with that feeling that you've been trying to remediate. Sometimes it's just in the slowing down. I think that a concert is nothing but a sensuous pleasure bowl where a bunch of people go together to have the same or similar experience. It is all about what you're going to see. It's about what you're going to hear. And there's something about the feel and the energy of being in the space together that makes it into something else. Because yes, you could watch your concert at home and still get the visuals. I would say arguably better visuals, depending on whether or not, you got that money to get that good seat. But there's something about being in the space with other people. It's part of the reason why we go to the movies, to hear where everybody is laughing or sighing or groaning at that sort of same moment. There is a connection. There are these other senses beyond what we can see, smell, taste, hear, and feel. I did not study all those lovely senses, but that the ability to sense where people are around you, but the energy that is exchanged when we are sharing space and having a similar experience, all of these things are good for our nervous system. All of these things are good for us. And how we are more separate now than ever before.
How do we get from those experiences and really savoring them to the next layer of intimacy, which is physical intimacy, where a lot of people, based on what we talked about from the beginning, what is beauty? And then, taking off your clothes and being before another person and being accepted, or all the things that go into that point of sexual intimacy.
All the things that go into sexual intimacy, I would say, like, of course there's desire, right? But there's also a willingness to be vulnerable.
Yes.
That to be literally naked in front of somebody that can, quite frankly, can take your breath away if you allow it to, right? You're slowing down. You're allowing this person to see you as you are. No girdle, no bra, no whatever else you got going on. None of it. Just as you are. That is a vulnerability, yes. Right? Sex therapists, we often talk about intimacy as into me you see. So when people say physical intimacy, I'd be like, what are we talking about? But when I hear it, I'm just like, well, even in the sexual format of it all, it requires the other forms of intimacy for you to fully also be present. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't just have sex with people and it not be an intimate experience. But if it's going to be an intimate experience, it's going to require some level of vulnerability from you to them. It's an exchange. And naming it and seeing it as an exchange, I think that requires the senses. It requires you to see that person, to hear them. You're going to smell them because you're going to be all up in there, right? You're going to be very close to them. There's the tasting of each other's, and not just the taste of through kisses or through licking or whatever is going on, but also just the taste of what it feels like. What taste is left in your mouth with the experience? How do you feel about what is happening? We have our metacognitions, the thoughts we think about our thoughts, but also there, I would say our meta emotions, the feelings that we have about what we're feeling, but also the thoughts we have about what we're feeling. All of these things are coming into play and into the same space to determine what feels intimate for us and whether or not our physical acts are actually intimate.
Hey guys, this is Dream Leapers with Harriette Cole. We are talking with Dr. Donna Oriowo. Her book, Drink Water and Mind Your Business, a Black woman's guide to unlearning the BS and healing your self-esteem. Okay, Dr. Donna, we have 5 minutes left. Can you believe this?
Ooh.
So, I mean, so many things. So
you said it would go fast.
I told you it was going to go fast. So, okay, a couple of things, and we'll try to do them quickly so we can get through. Just this, how do you work with people regarding sexuality so that they those who need this, get to the place where the light doesn't have to be off, they don't have to be intoxicated, they don't have to skip to the wham bam thank you ma'am, so that they avoid the intimacy, so that people can slow down and actually be able to be in an intimate experience with someone.
I do that in a multitude of ways. I mean, obviously there's therapy, individual and couples therapy, but there's also like books and sessions that I might have, like an educational session, like one I have coming up in July. I believe.
Tell us about that one.
Yeah, the pleasure principle, because Janet did get it right. The pleasure principle is very important here. So that one, it's free. And we are talking about pleasure and specifically how to tap into pleasure. And again, sensual pleasure, not necessarily sexual pleasure.
Though, and where and when, how do people attend that?
That is going to be online. So really it's, you can go to my website so that you can get registered at donnaoriowo.com. You can also go to Instagram and there will be a link there as well so that you can get registered.
And so what is the date and time?
It's going to be 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on July 15th.
Okay, excellent.
Okay, I got to double check my date.
That's good. Yeah, I want folks to know, because I'm sure they would appreciate being able to continue this conversation. And I would be remiss if I didn't ask you, okay, the book, Drink Water and Mind Your Business. So what is it about water? Tell us, why do you lead with drink water? What does that mean to Dr. Oriowo?
Drink water means so many different things. Number one, the dehydrated body very rarely performs well. So sometimes people feel like they have depression, and I'm just like, well, let's try to get you properly hydrated first and see if the anxiety or the depression that you're telling me about actually persists. Also, if you want those big ohs, you got to be hydrated.
That's true.
No hydration, no function. So yes, drink water. And because that's one of those things that you can't do for somebody else. You have to do that for yourself. No one else can drink water for you and you be hydrated. So if you are drinking your water, then that means that you are doing something to take care of yourself.
That's interesting. I think that many people are dehydrated. I think of just elders, because, as you know, I always talk about my mama, so I talk about her again. But in her later years, that was one of the things that I learned. A lot of elders do not drink enough water for whatever the reason is. And when they have crises, the first thing that they do is give them saline to hydrate them. And I remember thinking about it and thinking, okay, are we who are not elders like them, are we hydrating ourselves? Generally not. You get a facial and like, oh, your skin is so dry. Well, that doesn't mean just put an ointment on your skin. It means hydrate, drink water. When you are working with your clients, how often do you find that they just aren't drinking water?
Probably 95% of the time.
Ooh.
People come, they tell me I'm depressed, I'm anxious, I haven't been able to achieve an O. I say, go drink some water. Let's review your diet. When was the last time you had something to drink? Did you have anything to drink today? What was the thing you had to drink? Because drinking a soda is not going to do it. I'm like, your sugary drink is quite delicious, and I will never snatch it out of your hand. Instead, I'm going to ask you, in addition to that thing that you're drinking, I need you to drink water. Just water. It doesn't have to be fancy water. Just water.
Just water.
Just water.
Okay, the book is called Drink Water and Mind Your Business. Dr. Donna Oriowo, when is your event again?
It's July 15th, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
And you can go on her website to find out. This has been delightful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a really great interview.
Yeah. And by the way, my daughter just finished her undergrad in psychology. She is interested in being a psychologist for young adults. So I can't wait to tell her all about you, because it is so important for us, for there to be Black women, Black people in this space to serve each other.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's a deficit, so we need more. So I thank her in advance.
Yes. Well, thank you for all of your scholarship and your application of it for Black women. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right. And thank you to all of you for tuning in. I hope that you have enjoyed this conversation as much as I have. Dr. Donna Oriowo, Drink Water and Mind Your Business, a Black woman's guide to unlearning the BS and healing your self-esteem. It's a really fun read. And by the way, Dr. Donna did a really great job of not cursing. There's a lot of fun cursing in her book, but we can't do that on the radio. Until next time, have a great day and make it count. See y'all.